YouTube, my name is Kayla Frost and welcome to my BookTube channel. Today I will be introducing you to what this channel will contain, and I will be hosting my very first Indie Spotlight. What I mean by Indie Spotlight, well, that's the first thing that this channel is going to cover. Independent book spotlights. Basically, I'll read a ton of indie works and I will select the ones that I really like, and I will pull the ones that are either 4 or 5-star reads for me, and I will present them on this channel as reviews. The next thing I want to do on this channel is cover public domain books. Now, those are books that have had their copyright expire. This is more of an academic exercise. I'm curious to explore the foundations of those genres and how they came to be. The next thing I will be covering will be monthly wrap-ups, the books that I read. And I will link to other booktubers if I read publishing house books that aren't indie books. Other booktubers that do a fantastic job covering content, but also dive into the publishing house domain, because I want this to specifically be focused on independent author works. The next thing I will be doing is perhaps some of my own content. I'll review sort of my writing process, maybe post some of the artwork that I'm working on, keep people apprised of how the sequels coming along for my book Escape Reality that I published last November. If people are interested, I can do breakdowns of my work. But again, I'm going to focus on the indie spotlight aspect of it. Alright, so that concludes everything that this channel is going to cover. Now we can jump into our very first indie spotlight. I hope you enjoy it. Sufficiently Advanced Magic by Andrew Rowe. Now, with every one of my reviews, I'm going to be covering 5 topics to make up the 5 stars possible that we can give a book when we rate it on Goodreads or Amazon. Now, my 5 stars consist of premise, flow/pacing, character development, world building, and conclusion. These 5 components make up the 5 stars possible for any given book. I do give half points and occasionally I give bonus points, but today we're just going to be focusing on the 5. Now, the premise. Let's start with that. The premise of this book is simple. There's a young man who's about to enter a tower, and he's doing so to test himself, much like we would with the SAT to get into university. He's been preparing for this moment his entire life, and he has a very specific goal in mind. And it's not a spoiler to say that his goal is to find out what happened to his big brother, because these towers are no cakewalk. They're actually quite dangerous. His brother disappeared, and he wants to know what happened to him. Everyone else has presumed his brother to be dead. So he's going in with the motive to not only obtain magic himself, which is the goal of this trial he's about to start, but to also find out what happened to his big brother. Now, the goal getting through the tower is to have the goddess of the realm bestow her magic upon you in the form of a mark on your person. Now, marks can happen all over your body, which is fascinating, and I will get a little bit deeper into the concepts of this magical system that he outlines very well, Rowe does, later in the world building component of this review. But this concludes the premise portion of it, and I gave it a full star because it's a really good hook, and it keeps you enthralled pretty much throughout the entire book. So the next thing we're going to be covering is flow/pacing. This was pretty good throughout the whole book. It starts the book out at a very breakneck pace and keeps that pace pretty much throughout, except for the center of the book around bouts. There is a little bit of a slowdown. It made me think of when I played WoW or Neverwinter or any other MMORPG, and I was grinding for my next level, and I was like, okay, I'll go through another set of dailies and hopefully I'll get to my next level soon. And that's the way it made me feel. Like I was grinding for my next level, for my upgrade. And so that kind of could have probably been tightened up a little bit so it didn't feel that way. But to be honest, I don't know if it was to the story's detriment, because you do learn a lot of really neat stuff. So it was kind of a mixed bag on that. I do think overall the pacing was fantastic. So half star on that for sure. Next we have character development. In Sufficiently Advanced Magic, the characters are really well composed. Imagine you are in World of Warcraft and you're trying to go dungeon crawling. It's so easy to come up with a group if you're in a guild, and that's kind of the way it felt. Like we were finding good guild mates with complementary skills, and with each addition to the team, you got a solid raiding party together. It was really neat to kind of see that in narrative form, to see that in book form. It gave me, again, serious RPG vibes, where I was like, oh, this is a lot of fun. I wonder who they're going to add to their little party. In addition to that, it gave me Harry Potter vibes in the sense that a lot of the teachers added just so much texture to the character development of the story. I loved the teachers. They were really intriguing, mysterious for sure, and it made me want to know more about the world. It made me want to know more about the characters and their secrets and their past and everything in between. So I would say that was one of the shining points for the novel, was the intriguing characters that you want to know more about. That being said, there was one tiny detractor, and that is some of the interpersonal relationships formed throughout the novel are not led up to. And so you can have characters that you thought found no interest in one another at all of a sudden finding each other of interest. And so it can seem jarring, and I would have appreciated a little bit more of a lead up to those. I didn't have any issue with the characters' dynamics or interpersonal relationships and how they ended up, but it would have been a lot cooler if those characters had been given a tiny lead up, because then I could have appreciated it more. In the end, I gave this half points because of that. I felt like it was a missed opportunity for some character development in that area of interpersonal relationships. So, half star for that. So now we're at 2 stars. World building and sufficiently advanced magic is probably a perfect example of how to do it well. It's just so much fun. You have the various towers in different countries, and depending on which tower you go to, you can get a different class of magic, which adds so much more complexity to the magical system of this realm when compared to so many other magical systems created in books of fiction. And I think that was one of the most intriguing parts of the entire experience. Learning about the world, learning about the creatures, because goodness, there are a lot of really neat creatures. Learning about the goddess, learning about her representatives, because there are a number of entities that represent her, and they are very fascinating too, and not to mention very scary for the characters to face. So there are just so many positives in this world development that he created. There's politics, there's magic, there's a school aspect to it. There is a rank up aspect to it, because imagine as a wizard, you have mana. Literally, it talks about mana in this world, and different parts of your body hold different kinds of mana. And you can exercise, kind of like exercising to get stronger and being able to lift heavier objects. You exercise your mana and your magics so that you can do better spells. And I had so much fun learning about that magical system. It was just, I'd never heard or read of a magical system as well done as this one. I really enjoyed it. Some people might argue with me on that, and obviously that is highly subjective to say, oh, I haven't found one that surpasses this. It's just really complex, and I think he did a phenomenal job. So this got full marks, a whole star for it, 100% without reservation. The world building was phenomenal. Now, we're going to get to the conclusion. Now, I'm not going to spoil the conclusion for you. I'm just going to say that it was a worthy conclusion. I did not feel like I was robbed after the reading experience. I didn't feel like, oh, this is just a lead up for the next book. It is, but it also feels satisfying at the end of the book. I didn't feel like it was a waste of effort or a lame ending. It was fantastic. I really enjoyed it. I felt it was satisfying. It left us with plenty more questions to lead on, but it also answered a fair few. So that is a nice combination to be given to the reader. So whole star for that, leading us to the final tally of 4 well-deserved, wonderful stars. And I highly recommend the book. In conclusion, I would like to thank you all for spending this time with me, and I would like to encourage you to post below any indie author that you think is deserving of a spotlight. I'm slowly adding to my indie TBR, and I hope to continue to read as many indie books as possible and let you know about my favorites on this channel. So if you want to keep up to date with those, I would highly recommend you subscribe and ring that bell, and that way you are notified whenever I come up with new videos to share. Thank you for your time. I hope you have a wonderful, fantastic day.